very long time that I've been in software development. So what are we talking about? Today we are going to continue on last year's talk. I think Rich presented it on the CQL SDK 1.0. And today I would like to talk about the journey from then till version 2. And then we're going to actually talk about the 2.0 SDK. We will have some tutorials on that. And then I also want to talk about the packages CLI with some small examples there. And then we will have a Q&A session afterwards. So if you have any questions, please put it in the Wovo app, and then we will look at the app for any questions that you might have. So I added a poll in the Wovo app just to see, who's using what. Quite a number of you are using the packages CLI. Just one still using version 1 of the SDK, and then we've at least got 2 people using the version 2, and then also the MS Build tooling. So version 1 until version 2. Yeah, so that happened when I started working at FHIR. There was already a version 1, and we collaborated very closely with NCQA on fixing a lot of bugs and doing some optimizations. We did a lot of refactoring, cleaning code. It was kind of a repo that started out of a lab, so it wasn't planned to be out in the open. And then, Everett was had to negotiate, ask them to please release it to the wide world, and they were very generous to do that. So I want to shout out to NCQA for that. And now we are the maintainers of the repo. What we also started doing last year was to build something that converts CQL to Elm. Now, what is Elm? CQL is human-friendly, and we need to parse that into some kind of expression logic model. That is an intermediate model that uses the language and the data model, and it combines it into something that a machine can read. And that is stored either as JSON that we use or XML. So then we also improved this packages CLI. The packages CLI is a tool where you can just say, well, there's some Elm files, and I want to all package that into FHIR resources. I will add a little bit more on what features we added to that. Something is still missing. So our C# guys there on the right, there's a lot of moving parts there. Inside it's all internal. He doesn't have access to it. He doesn't want to work with it. That's not how you drive a car. He doesn't have a steering wheel. So we needed a public API to give to our C# guy there so that he can use the functionality to process CQL and execute it in process. So we spend a lot of time on coming up with something that's intuitive and easy to use. We're calling it toolkits. We've got a number of toolkits. They all work on a specific part in the pipeline, as you can say. So one toolkit would convert the CQL to Elm, and another one would convert the Elm into something executable. Every toolkit has a core functionality, and then there's some extension methods that make it a lot easier to use and adds a lot of functionality around that. I have to mention that we're already using this in the production FHIR server. So, and also we've got some people at Philips that already use it in the microservice. And then I'd like to just show you the toolkits that we have here. So yeah, as I mentioned, we've got the CQL toolkit that takes all the CQL files, converts to Elm libraries. Then the Elm toolkit takes those Elm libraries and generates C# files, which we can step through, which I will also show if you want to debug the .NET assemblies. And then the packaging tool is to take all those artifacts and put it in the FHIR library and FHIR measures. And then we have the Invocation Toolkit, which is new, as if you want to execute this. It can extract the DLLs from the FHIR libraries, or you just pass in the DLLs directly. And then there is a little API around that for you to say which definitions do you want to execute. So some 2.0 API considerations. We really wanted to make this very simple to use for beginner C# developers. So we tried to avoid things like threading and async and so on. So it's all single-threaded synchronous API. We work with immutable data as much as possible. It's just a lot easier to manage state if you have a known state, and then you do work on that, and then you've got something completely new. Then with strings, what I don't like about strings is it can be anything, right? So if you have a method that takes some string input parameters, you know, so what is a string? It can be anything. So is it a file? Is it the URL? So we try and avoid strings, and we encapsulate strings into a smart thing, like if I have a bit of CQL, then we have a CQL library string, and then we use that type as an input parameter for our methods, so that our methods are self-documenting. We also want to have a fluent API, makes it quite nice and easy to use. Then extensibility is yeah, so anyone can add extension methods on the core toolkit. So we've added some things out of the box here already to load files from a directory and then to save it back to directory. Error handling is something that I will show in the tutorials. So we work on batches, and then we would like to see we would like a best effort to parse all the files and then convert it to other types, and then there are some ways on handling that. And then the most important thing is debuggability. We want to be able to step through the CQL and debug it. We've seen some tutorials here where I think Renee mentioned it's quite hard to author the CQL, and you'd like to see actually how this performs when you've got some data there. So it would be nice to step through the code to see how that works. All right, so without much ado, I'm going to have some tutorials now. And if you're a C# developer, I hope you enjoy this. We will look at some use cases to convert CQL to Elm, and then Elm to C# and the .NET. Then we will put everything into FHIR libraries and measures, and then we would like to run and debug that. I've got one example on just some extension methods on how, if you want to extend it yourself. And then also we want to package, I think everything into FHIR resources, and then load and invoke on FHIR resources. So I hope you can see that there is the repo name. It is FHIRly team FHIRly-CQL-SDK. If you want to clone that repo, there's the command to do that. And if you want to, the examples that we will look at is inside the SDK itself. So if you open the Visual Studio, there's example subfolder, and all the examples are in there. Sorry? Yes, yes. So every folder, there's a run configuration, and then it's small little examples, and they're isolated from each other. So every folder has its own input set of files. I'll just show you. So I hope this is pretty clear. This is what we've seen. Okay. Let's. I will exit. Visible? Yes. Okay. All right. I hope that is pretty visible for everyone. The first example that we will look at is to load CQL from a directory and save the Elm from it. I think it's already open here, so I'll collapse this. So we put in a lot of thought on how do we actually simplify all these complex moving parts. So the .NET hosting and service provider architecture was one thing, but we thought that we want to keep things simple. We do not want to include unnecessary complex things. So the only dependency that's really from the Microsoft toolbox is the logger library that we use from there. So if you want to do some logging, you can create, you use the Microsoft logger factory, and we say we want to log to the console. And then it's as simple as saying, I want to have a CQL toolkit, and we pass in the logger factory. Now, all the parameters in the constructor are optional. You don't, if you don't pass in anything, you're just not going to have logging, and you'll have the default options. So if I look at all the parameters here, so we've got the logger factory, we've got some config, and then we have the batch process exception continuation, which is, I had this name so many times, I couldn't find a name that's really descriptive and short, so now it's a very long name, but pretty much what this means is if there are errors in your batch, how do you want me to proceed? Should I just throw it out there, or should I just ignore and continue? The ignore and continue is quite useful for me because I want to do a best effort through all the stages in the pipeline to see, okay, well, yes, the CQL files, oh, maybe we've got a little bit less Elm files and even less DLLs. And that is how we developed over the last year and a half. Obviously, that's not how we want to, for most people, that will not be really useful. You want to have like 100% pass rate through everything. But it is worth mentioning if you want to ignore errors, it is possible. So we've got 3 lines here. The pinkish red are all extension methods. And the cyan is, well, the methods on the toolkit itself. So really what the toolkit only does is it's translating the CQL to Elm. And then the extension methods are used to get files and put it into a CQL string and put it as a batch into the toolkit, and then we do something with it, and then it is available in a set that's got the inputs and the outputs kind of in a list. And then there's another extension method there that will take the results from that and then save it to a directory. Yeah, let's run this. So for each of those folders here, you can just pick the configuration that matches it. So we will say 210, and then we're gonna run it. Hopefully nothing blows up. I did? Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, let's stop it. So, oh, okay. So it's just on a. Yeah.
So Paul, that also means you can load it from a database, right? The CQL files.
Yes. Well, that's for implementers to do themselves. So if you want to write an extension method that loaded from a SQL database, you can just write the extension methods. You have your standard inputs and your standard outputs. I will show that in a bit. Yeah, so here we have the output of all the JSON files. So that was pretty simple. We've got the logs here telling exactly what's going on. We're adding the CQL library into the toolkit, DevDays 2.5, and then also FHIR helpers. That does the parsing of the CQL, and then it saves it to a directory. Okay, that's a pretty simple thing to do. Right, the next example would be to take the Elm files and then convert it into C# and the .NET DLLs. Now you don't have to write out the C# files. You can embed if you want to. If you want, you can. There's a flag to say, well, I want to embed the debug symbols into the DLL. So if you want to debug that, it will automatically go into the embedded C#. But if you want to just have it in a directory somewhere, that is possible. So the next example looks exactly the same. I've got the logger factory there, I've got the Elm toolkit, and I've got an input folder, which are the Elm files. And then I do something with it, I compile it to .NET assemblies, and then I've got two methods there to say, well, save the C# files to a directory, and then the assembly binaries to another directory. So let's do that. Yes. It's to make it executable. The question was, what is the purpose of compiling it into C#? Is that correct?
That C# is source code, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because we have to compile it into something that can run in .NET. So we compile the C# from the CQL, or actually from the Elm, and then we compile the C# in .NET assemblies. And then .NET assemblies are the executable libraries.
Green knows, right? Java one knows interpretation, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions here now on the Java tooling. I think we should take this offline and continue with the demo. So I'll take the questions at the end. So if I run this, yeah, then we expect to see two libraries, the output CS and the output DLL. This will become more and more clearer as I go down all the examples. This is just small baby steps to show focus on everything on its own. But probably what you would like to do is you want to have the CQL and just execute it immediately. So here are two .NET DLLs, and that's the libraries that are executable. And the C#, well, that's what they look like. I will maybe go a little bit through that. We've got it matches up with your CQL on the side. Let's see what it looks like here. I'll actually open the CQL here. So we can see we have the codes, all the codes there, code systems, parameters. There's a parameter, and then all the expressions here, which is patient, is context. Yeah, so that's pretty much how it looks in C#. So the next example is, well, we want to package all these things into a FHIR library, and that is something that you can ship to your FHIR server. And in your FHIR library, you've got the embedded CQL and Elm and C# and .NET DLLs. Up to now, we embedded the C# and .NET DLL because the FHIR server didn't have the capability to compile the CQL and Elm into .NET DLLs, but now with the toolkits, it is possible. So we will compile this on the fly on the server. So the packaging toolkit is a little bit more complicated. I just want to explain a little bit how the packaging toolkit works. It's got the inputs, which is well, a set of records, and then you have the CQL file, the Elm file, the C# file, and the DLL file, and that is one record, and then you can have multiples of that, and then you've got the method here to say convert it to FHIR resources, and then you save it as a FHIR resource. I will skip this example because it's there's extension methods for that to make it simpler. And this is the simple version. So we have, let's see, we package, yeah, we've got the CQL toolkit. We add the CQL files because we want to embed that into the FHIR libraries. And then we've got the Elm toolkit. We add the Elm files to it. And then we just say on the Elm toolkit, package that into FHIR resources. And it will pick up the CQL files that was already added to the CQL toolkit. So let's run this one. After this one, it will get a little bit more interesting. So we can step through the code. Okay, and there is our FHIR resources. We have we prepend the name library dash to it because sometimes the same CQL file can end up as a library and a measure. And then if we need a way to distinguish between what kind of resource it is. So we just prepend the resource type in front of the name. So it is quite possible to have a library dev days and also a measure dev days. Okay, and then invoking the CQL. So for these examples, I've just got the C#. I just have the bit of CQL directly in my code. I'm not using files. It just makes it a lot easier. And as I mentioned, we don't want to just use strings. We want to actually have a specific type that we can work with. And then what this also does is it just parses the C# or the CQL a little bit just to extract the library name and version. And then we add this to our CQL toolkit, the the CQL, and then we create a library set invoker. Now, a library set invoker, you work with a set of libraries, and then we need to have something that can invoke some definitions on this. So, and you'll notice here it's a using, which means it's going to dispose at the end of the use because you need to load all these assemblies into memory. You don't want to have it there forever. So when you don't need it anymore, you have to unload those assemblies from your app domain. And then on the library set invoker, you can invoke a specific definition. So I just say, well, the library identifier will be hello world lib, and then the definition signature that I want to execute is hello world. What I also have here is the config when I want to generate the Elm. Actually, when I want to generate the DLLs, and that is to embed the debug symbols into the DLLs so that I can step through it. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. And then when I run the code, then we should be able to step through the generated C#. That is where the C# comes in. It is fairly simple to match this generated C# to the CQL on the left. It would be quite nice if we could step through the CQL only, but yeah, that's not something we can do yet. So we will step through this the C#. I just have to pick the correct example. We are at, yeah, invoking CQL hello world. So just look at the CQL again. It's just the definition that returns a constant string here. So we expect the C# to look the same when we step through it. Okay, let's get enough room. Right, I'm going to step into the code. And there's the C#. So why is that nice to have? Well, if I have my CQL context, that's where all my value sets are. And at some point when you step to the code, you've got access to all your input, your lists and your resources. So if you want to see where something goes wrong, it's really nice to be able to step through the code and then find out where the bugs are. So as we expect, we see just a constant here that returns hello DevDays. I think, how much time do I have left, Louis? 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so that was all very simple examples. I can, stepping through the code. Extension methods are fairly simple. I will quickly talk about that before I get to the packages CLI. So for this extension that I wrote, it's just I want to just display all the defines for each library. So I add all the CQL files again from a directory, translate it to Elm, and then this extension method log the libraries and the definitions. I've got an extension method here on the CQL toolkit, and I have to return the CQL itself because we want to keep things fluid. You can get the logger. The logger factory is available on each toolkit, so you can just create your logger for yourself here. And then this to get the results that's currently available on the toolkit, you just use this method. Get all the results. Will give you the generated Elm files paired with their library identifiers. And then, then if I have the Elm library, I can just get all the statements from there and then send it to the log. So that will be the last example for now before I get to the packages CLI. So I think I'm displaying the still running. Okay, so here I logged the libraries. So we've got library FHIR helpers with all these statements. We've got patient to interval to quantity to ratio. And then in the DevDays example, we've got all the definitions from there also. So this is the super simple example. I don't want to complicate things, but you would probably write extension methods to output things to your database or from your database. All right, and then let's go back to the PowerPoint thing. Yeah, now I have to. Okay, the packages CLI. As you've seen from the poll, some people are already using this in their DevOps pipelines, I suppose. In the past, we only, the packages CLI, you have to provide the Elm files in the directory, and then it will generate the FHIR resources for you. But now we would also like to start from CQL, not just Elm. And we need a way to tell the packages CLI where do you want to start. So we added some verbs to it or commands. So first, if you want to install it, there's the command to install the packages CLI into your command line environment. If you want to look at the help, there's help on the root that will tell you about the CQL verb and then also the Elm verb. And then if you want to further get help on that, you can just use the verb and the help, and it will explain you exactly how it works. So let's see. This is the help for that. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Yeah, that's annoying. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna. Okay, I will go back to Visual Studio because Visual Studio does have all the packages CLI commands embedded here also. So, for example, we wanted to convert the CQL to Elm. There is a PowerShell script here also to show you, okay, I want to just take the CQL and take it to an Elm. You don't have to take it all the way to generate FHIR resources. You just say, this is where we want to start, and then you just put in all your output directories, and it will do that for you. And then similarly, if I want to take the Elm, okay, so this takes CQL and generates C# and DLLs. So there are all these PowerShell scripts are in the same folder as the C# example. Yes.
So they do on the command line what you did in Visual Studio in the program.
Indeed, yes, yeah, it does exactly the same. Yeah. I think that's it. Okay, so there's the contact information. I'm not going to run through all the slides again, but if you, let's see if we can make it a bit bigger. There's contact information if you want to take a screenshot. Some additional links. We've got some how to implement CQL-based quality measures, and then our journey to CQL from last year's Dev Days. And yeah, if you have any feedback, please feedback away.
Again, thank you, Paul, for also the demo and everything went well. So I think that's always courageous to go and do demo from. Is anyone question for Paul?
Yeah, thanks. Is it possible to take some CQL and execute it with this .NET code, or does it have to go through that pipeline of compile to Elm, compile to C#?
So you don't really care about all the middle steps, right? You just want to execute.
So say I have some existing C# code, and I want somebody to be able to type some CQL into a box in my app and execute it. I won't have a compiler environment in my deployed code. So this is like programming for it, but is it possible to sort of execute it on the fly with this toolkit?
Yeah, so if you want to execute on the fly, it still goes through it. It does it all in memory, so it will compile it in memory, and then load that memory into assembly in memory, put it in your library set invoker, and then you can invoke it immediately.
Well, if you already have the DLLs, you can also offline generate the DLLs and ship the DLLs, right? Then you don't need the C# compiler. But if someone passes you some random ad hoc CQL that you want to run at that moment, you go through this chain. Yeah, but the compiler is always deployed with your .NET stuff because it's the Roslyn compiler.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have .NET installed, then you don't need anything else. It's
Other question, yes.
So, if you're like an informaticist, I guess this is related to your question. I guess if you're just trying to author CQL, is there a sort of natural iterative and you're not a C# developer, so you just want to write CQL and then evaluate it against like an example patient. You could build an app with this an editing environment for CQL or something that kind of
So this toolkit is like a comprehensive toolkit for like building all of the pieces that somebody building the editor you're describing would need to do, right? This is like one level below that. If you want to just like write CQL, then this toolkit is what you would like. The developer of the tool would use to build that functionality for someone. So like the VS Code plugin, like we have all these pieces in Java, and the VS Code plugin wraps them all up. I don't know whether you already have something like that for the C# one.
No, because you have it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I do have a different question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything with the NPM side of things? Like, how do you? If I have a library that I've published in a FHIR implementation guide with an NPM package, can you use that? Like, can I share that into this ecosystem?
So you want to load FHIR libraries from NPM?
Right. I mean, what I'm seeing is I would have to write an extension method to load from the NPM package.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does SDK already have like NPM capability?
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because we have all the pieces we can of course resolve from an NPM file. Right. So just the last bit is missing, the extension method that would actually load it from the NPM file. Right. Yeah.
And then, so that's my next question is, can you specify the namespace when you're doing your CQL TLM translator?
Namespaces is something that I saw yesterday at your presentation. So I don't think we handle namespaces yet.
Right. Like by default, the translator, if you don't put, well, the Java translator, by default, if you don't specify namespaces, then everything's kind of just in this global public namespace. Yeah. But you can specify a namespace and say that everything I compile is going to be in this namespace unless I otherwise specify it in the CQL. Especially with like includes and coming from NPMs, like there's all sorts of mapping between the names, like the package ID in NPM and the namespace in CQL. And the reason I say all that is we're starting to actually distribute CQL libraries as part of FHIR packages, and it would be great to be able to just plug this into that capability.
Yeah, we have tons of namespace support in the CQL to Elm compiler, but it's not derived from. I'm thinking it's not that it comes from names in the NPM packaging or whatever. But the compiler is definitely namespace aware.
Should we get you at the same microphone, maybe?
Well, we'll take this offline.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take it offline, but yeah, I would love for that to just like start working.
But what I understand is it's
I
brand new stuff.
want to share a Java like CQL library with the .NET CQL
We should
library.
try that. Yeah.
Last question.
Okay, last question. How is the data accessed? What can I do with C# code, or do I have to create the library in FHIR server or to access data, or can I access data in another way?
So the data is accessed through the CQL context, which I didn't go too much detail into because it's already part of the 1.0 SDK. So, but you put all your value sets and retrievers in there. And then the libraries will ask a CQL context, well, give me this a list of these resources or value sets. Or yeah, so I think that's something that for an advanced session maybe.
Well, so we have the interface. We have an iData source interface. We can tell by that.
Yeah. Let's see. Data source. Yeah, so if you, this retrieve, or this data source, if you implement that, then we use this interface with retrieve parameters, which will be, yeah, the value set and codes and this will query the resources like your observations and patients. No, it's not query libraries.
Okay.
So my question is very simple. If we have issues, where's the best place for us to all come and ask questions so that we can all see it? Is there a specific thread on Zulip that we should be using to ask questions? Because I've been messing with some stuff at the Connectathon in Madrid, and there wasn't really a place dedicated for that would be useful.
We open a channel on Zulip, you mean?
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, I'll make a note, Paul. And also the MTM resolver.
Okay.
Terminology.
There's a terminology interface also for that. Terminology. Yeah.
Must be in the settings somewhere.
Oh, and that one's defined in the SD.
Yeah, that's the
.NET
thing.
SDK.
It's used everywhere. It's the same plumbing as the normal SDK. So we have iResource resolver and iTerminology service to do that.
And how do you get libraries?
The toolkits don't really care about how you get the libraries. You have to specify in your extensions that these are your libraries, and then the toolkit will put that into your assembly load context for invocation.
Yeah, we have compile time, right? That's the thing. So compile time is libraries need to be available, not at runtime anymore. That's different from the Java implementation. Yeah, and we have everything at compile time. So by the time it runs, it's all C#.
Why go to C#? Why not go straight to IL?
It would be very hard to do. Yeah.
IL, but if CQL was just a .NET language, you would get debuggability. Because, right, like you're effectively going from the CQL to the C# to the IL to the assembly.
But how would you debug IL? It would be really hard for you to...
Same way you do with C#. Like you would go back to the source, the CQL source, but it would be CQL source instead of C# source.
Yeah, that is obviously would be nice if you can point back to the original CQL, but...
Well, one reason is that, so in the 1.0 toolkit, or maybe I'll use the mic for this so it gets recorded.
So in the 1.0 toolkit, we actually, initially, we generated the IL directly. So we built a .NET link expression tree in memory and then called compile on that. But that's actually a secondary compiler from the Roslyn compiler and produces way worse IL than the full-powered C# compiler. So the Roslyn compiler is the full .NET, every optimization you can think of compiler. So the benefit from having a C# here is human debuggability, but all the brain power from the Microsoft engineers to get the most effective IL. So this is also a warning, and I think everyone who has worked with like the dynamic runtime by now knows that if you generate IL from link expressions, it's actually pretty slow IL, as I discovered. I'm pretty sure they do also optimizations at the IL level, but there's a lot of stuff done with the C# compiler itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's
Okay, that makes sense then. That's a good answer.
I will call now the end of the session. But please free to reach back to Paul or Ewout or whoever. Also, don't forget to fill in the feedback form. Always helpful for everyone. And thank you.
Thank you.